She told me she was at the salon. I followed her, and found her walking into a hotel with the man she swore was just her hairdresser. What happened next shattered everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. Hey everyone. Honestly, I never thought I'd be the kind of guy posting something like this, but here I am. Life has a strange way of blindsiding you when you least expect it. My name's Jack, I'm 34 and my wife Rachel is 32. We've been married just shy of a decade and from the outside things probably looked picture perfect. Rachel has always been this incredible mix of strength and fire. She's sharp, outspoken, fiercely independent. That bold spirit of hers was one of the first things that drew me in. But something started to shift recently and I didn't want to see it at first. When you've built a life with someone, it's easier to explain things away, to pretend the little cracks don't mean much. We've had our share of arguments and rough patches. Nothing unusual, right? Rachel's always been a little guarded, especially when it comes to her past. She had it rough growing up and that made her keep parts of herself locked up tight. I used to think that was just part of who she was. Looking back, maybe I should have asked more questions. I guess the signs started creeping in a few months ago. Rachel was different. Not in some dramatic way but in those subtle, everyday moments. She suddenly got very protective over her phone, always face down, always close to her. That was new. We'd never had secrets like that before. And when I asked her about it, she'd get irritated. "What's your deal, Jack? Don't you trust me anymore?" She'd snap, her tone cutting. It always made me feel like I was the one doing something wrong. Still, that uneasy feeling lingered. I kept telling myself I was reading too much into it. Rachel had never given me a reason to doubt her, so why start now? But then the excuses started piling up. She's a real estate agent and long hours come with the job, so I didn't think twice when she said she had late showings or last-minute clients. But it started happening more often. She'd get home ridiculously late, or sometimes not at all until after midnight. And every time, it was some new emergency. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Rachel's always been married to her job as much as to me, and I respected that. But something in the energy between us changed. It was like she stopped seeing me altogether. We used to stay up talking about everything and nothing. Now I'd lie in bed alone, staring at my phone, waiting for her to walk through the door. And when she finally did, she barely spoke a word. Just a cold kiss on the cheek and off to sleep. Our intimacy vanished too. We used to have a spark that felt unshakable. But lately, whenever I reached for her, she pulled away. Said she was tired. Or stressed. I didn't press the issue. I kept thinking maybe she was just burned out from work and things would get better with time. But the truth is, something deep inside me was starting to ache with suspicion. You think you know someone after 10 years. You think living under the same roof makes you close. But I started feeling like I was sharing my life with a stranger. Rachel had this way of turning every concern into an attack. If I brought up how distant she'd been, she'd lash out. "Why are you trying to control everything? You're smothering me, Jack." And I'd back off, again. I didn't want to push her further away. What made everything more surreal was how unshakable Rachel seemed. Nothing ever fazed her. She built walls no one could climb, not even me. Meanwhile, I was the one lying awake every night, replaying conversations in my head, searching for the moment when everything started falling apart. Then came the whole situation with her hairdresser, this guy named Kyle. At first, I didn't think twice. Rachel's always been meticulous about her appearance, and Kyle had done her hair for years. He had a good reputation in our town and she trusted him. But then she started bringing him up all the time. Little things at first: "Kyle thinks I should go blonder," or "Kyle says bangs are making a comeback." It was constant. Kyle this, Kyle that. One weekend, she said she had a haircut scheduled with him and would be gone for a bit. No big deal, right? Except it was the third time she'd seen him in 2 weeks. Even I knew that was a lot. Rachel took her hair seriously, but this felt over the top. That gnawing in my gut came roaring back. So one evening over dinner, I tried to bring it up without sounding suspicious. Just casual. "You've been spending a lot of time with Kyle lately, haven't you?" I asked, trying to keep it light. She didn't even pause. "Yeah, so?" I gave a little shrug. "Just noticed, that's all." Then it happened. Her eyes sharpened and she dropped her fork. "Are you accusing me of something right now? Seriously, Jack?" I felt the air in the room go heavy. "No, of course not. Just making conversation." "Well, stop. Kyle is my hairdresser. That's it. You're reading too much into this." And that was it. Conversation over. Rachel had this way of shutting things down so fast I'd start questioning myself. But that reaction, it didn't sit right. Why get so defensive over a simple observation? The next big red flag hit me about a month later. Rachel told me she was going on a girls' weekend with her friend Claire. Now, I knew Claire, not super well but enough to trust her character. She seemed dependable, no drama, the kind of person who'd have your back. I actually thought the trip might do Rachel some good. She'd been tense and overwhelmed, and I figured some time with a friend could help her clear her head. She left early Friday morning, gave me a half-hearted kiss on the cheek and said she'd be back Sunday night. I stood there watching her walk out the door, trying to shake off that familiar weight in my gut. I told myself to let it go, to stop obsessing over things I couldn't prove. I smiled and said, "Have a good time," pretending like I wasn't already unraveling inside. Saturday rolled around and I had plans to play a round of golf with a buddy, but it got canceled last minute. So I stayed home trying to distract myself with chores and bad TV. Around midday my phone buzzed. It was a message from Claire, the same Claire who was supposedly away on the trip with Rachel. It wasn't anything serious, just a silly meme she forwarded. But the second I saw her name I froze. Why would Claire be texting me if she was with Rachel? Trying to stay casual, I sent her a quick reply, "Hope you and Rachel are having a great time out there." The reply came fast, almost too fast. "What trip?" My heart just stopped. I read the message over and over, thinking maybe I misunderstood. I replied, trying not to give myself away, "Rachel said you two were doing a girls' weekend." Claire answered, "Nope, I've been home all weekend. I've had the kids." And that was it. Everything in me collapsed right then and there. I didn't even respond after that. I just sat there, staring at my screen, trying to catch my breath. My hands were shaking. My thoughts were a mess. If Rachel wasn't with Claire, then where was she? And why lie? I called her. Straight to voicemail. I texted, just something simple, asking how the weekend was going. Nothing. Not a word back. The silence was unbearable. I felt like the floor had opened up beneath me and I was falling through every moment of doubt I'd brushed aside. Was she with Kyle? It made me sick to even think it, but everything started clicking into place. The late nights. The sudden closeness with him. The quick defenses. My instincts weren't wrong. They never were, I just hadn't wanted to believe them. By the time Sunday evening came around, I was on edge, pacing the living room like a man waiting for a storm to hit. I needed answers. I wasn't going to be left in the dark anymore. At around 7 p.m., the door opened and there she was, Rachel, acting like everything was completely normal. She walked in with this glowing smile and tossed her bag down. "Hey babe," she said like nothing had happened. "Weekend was amazing. I really needed that." I was holding so much back. My chest felt like it was going to burst. But I didn't let on. "Not yet." "Yeah," I said, trying to sound calm. "How's Claire doing?" She didn't even flinch. "She's good. We had a great time. Went shopping, hit the spa, did the usual girl stuff." I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. She was lying right to my face. I stared at her, looking for any sign of guilt. "That's nice," I said slowly. "She actually texted me while you were away." And that was the moment. For just a second, Rachel's face twitched, barely noticeable, but I caught it. "Oh, what did she say?" she asked, trying to play it off. "She said she's been home all weekend. With her kids." The room went dead quiet. She hesitated, just a beat too long, and then went into full cover-up mode. "Oh, right. Yeah, she had to cancel last minute. I still went with some of her friends though. Didn't I tell you?" Her voice was so calm, too polished. She had an answer ready like she'd practiced it. I nodded, trying not to let my voice betray me. "Got it." She slipped off her jacket and headed straight to the bedroom like it was any other Sunday night. But I couldn't move. I just stood there, heart in pieces, mind racing. I knew she was hiding something. And I knew it wasn't just a white lie about a weekend trip. That moment changed everything for me. I realized I couldn't go on like this, pretending not to see the truth that was staring me in the face. But I also knew I couldn't confront her without more. I needed facts. Real proof. Not just a gut feeling. So I started watching closer. Rachel fell right back into her routine. Late nights. More appointments with Kyle. Like nothing happened. Like she believed I'd swallowed the lie. But I hadn't. I noticed every glance at her phone, every smug little smile she didn't think I could see. I was done being passive. I was done letting her play me. I started small, watching her habits, paying attention to the details. And then one evening I got my break. She left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to shower. And for once it wasn't locked. My hands were trembling as I picked it up. I knew I was crossing a line, but I didn't care. I had to know. I opened her messages. Nothing unusual. Work texts. Chats with friends. Conversations with me. But something was off. There was barely anything from Kyle. Almost no record of him at all. Not even the casual stuff I knew she would have mentioned. And that's when it hit me, she was deleting their messages. Scrubbing every trace of him from her phone. Why would someone do that? Unless they had something to hide. After checking her messages, I went straight to her call log. Sure enough, Rachel had called Kyle a few times over the past week. Nothing that screamed affair on its own, but in the context of everything else, it didn't sit right. It was like she was scrubbing just enough to look innocent, like she'd carefully curated the record to avoid suspicion. Everything looked too clean, too perfect. I put the phone back exactly where I found it, just seconds before she stepped out of the bathroom. My heart was still hammering in my chest. I knew then that just checking her phone wasn't going to cut it. If I really wanted the truth, I was going to have to catch her in the act. The next morning, Rachel told me she had another appointment with Kyle. It was the perfect setup. She didn't know I'd already taken the day off. I waited until she left, gave it a few minutes, then grabbed my keys and followed her car. I kept enough distance not to be seen, but close enough to keep track of her. Only she didn't drive toward the salon. Instead, she took an unexpected route, one that led out of town, past the main roads, to this remote stretch where there wasn't much around. Eventually, she turned onto a long, winding drive that led to an old, slightly run-down hotel on the outskirts. I pulled over 2 blocks away, keeping low, my pulse rising. I watched as she parked, got out, and walked straight into the hotel. No hesitation. No looking back. I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. What was she doing there? What kind of hair appointment ended up in a place like that? My brain tried to spin it. Maybe it was a meeting, a business thing, but my gut already knew. This wasn't innocent. I waited. For over an hour, I sat there, staring at that door like it might swallow me whole. Every car that pulled up, every shadow in the window had me holding my breath. And then, just as the sky started to turn pink with sunset, I saw her. Rachel walked out and Kyle was right behind her. They looked relaxed, smiling, chatting like this was just another lovely afternoon. Then, right there in the open, he leaned in and kissed her. Not a polite kiss. Not a goodbye kiss. It was long, lingering, intimate. My stomach dropped. It was like my heart just shattered right there in my chest. I couldn't look away. I was frozen, locked in this nightmare that I had hoped I was wrong about. But I wasn't. It was all real. I gripped the steering wheel until my hands ached, trying to hold back the anger, the heartbreak, the urge to scream. I watched them part ways, Rachel heading back toward home like nothing had happened, and Kyle driving off in the opposite direction. The whole thing felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life implode. When I walked in later that night, she was already home, acting like nothing had changed. She greeted me with a kiss on the cheek, smiling like she hadn't just ripped my world apart. I nodded, said little, and played along. She had no idea I'd seen everything. No clue I'd followed her. But I wasn't ready to blow it all up yet. I needed to think. I needed to figure out my next move. I spent the rest of that night watching her, wondering how long this had been going on. Wondering how many times she'd used Kyle's name as a cover. Wondering how I could have been so blind. The next morning I barely slept. My thoughts were tangled, heavy with betrayal and confusion. Rachel was in the kitchen, acting like any other day, pouring coffee and humming softly. It was like she didn't have a care in the world. And I just sat there watching her, trying to wrap my head around how she could be so calm after what I'd witnessed. Finally, I couldn't keep it inside anymore. "So, what's going on between you and Kyle?" I asked. I kept my voice steady, casual even. Rachel paused, just a fraction of a second too long. Then she turned, her face calm. "What are you talking about?" "Nothing's going on." The lie came so effortlessly, it stunned me. I swallowed hard, then leaned in slightly. "I saw you yesterday. At the hotel." This time her reaction cracked, just for a second. Her eyes widened, lips parting like she'd been caught mid-thought. But she recovered quickly. "Jack, this isn't what you think," she said, her voice low, trying to sound gentle. "I can explain." I waited. I didn't say a word. I wanted to hear the story she'd rehearsed. She stepped closer as if that might soften the blow. "Kyle and I have been working on a little side project. He knows some people looking for property and I thought I could help them out. That's it. I didn't tell you because I figured you'd misunderstand. There's nothing going on." I didn't flinch, just watched her closely. "And the kiss?" I asked. My voice came out quieter than I meant it to, heavy with disbelief. "I saw him kiss you." Her eyes changed again, this time softer, a hint of what might have been regret. "He kissed me, yes," she said. "But it wasn't like that. He was thanking me for helping him close a deal." Caught me off guard. I didn't expect it and I pushed him away after. I should have told you. I just didn't want to make things worse. I stared at her, trying to see the truth in her eyes. For a moment I almost did. Her voice was calm. Her story made sense, barely. And after nearly 10 years together, it's hard to kill that instinct to trust someone you've loved for so long. But deep down, I already knew. I knew this was more than a bad kiss. I'd seen the way she looked at him. The ease between them. You don't end up at a hotel with a coworker just because you're helping with a deal. A part of me wanted so badly to believe her. To believe that this was just a misunderstanding. But another part, the part that had followed her there, that had seen it with his own eyes, knew better. She was lying. And now there was no going back. I would never cheat on you, Jack, Rachel whispered, her fingers tightening around mine just a little. You know me better than that. I'd never do anything to hurt you. I should have called her out right then and there. I should have told her I'd seen it all. But something held me back. Maybe it was the sheer exhaustion from carrying this suspicion for so long. Maybe it was the part of me that still desperately wanted to believe she wasn't capable of what I'd witnessed with my own eyes. Or maybe I was just scared to accept that the woman I loved had been lying straight to my face. So instead, I nodded, my mind foggy, my heart all over the place. All right, I muttered, not even sure if I believed the word or just needed the conversation to end. Rachel smiled softly and leaned in to kiss my forehead. Thank you for trusting me. She turned and walked away, slipping right back into her daily routine like nothing had changed. But inside, something small and sharp whispered to me, this wasn't over. There was still more she wasn't telling me. I'd let it go for now, but I knew I couldn't keep living like this. And sure enough, it didn't take long for the doubts to crawl back in. I kept replaying her words over and over in my head. Her version of events sounded too rehearsed, too smooth. The timing, the explanations, even the way she brushed off that kiss. It all felt like a performance. I stayed quiet, biding my time, hoping that the truth would reveal itself. It did. It was a Wednesday afternoon when I finally broke. I left work early, something I never do, because I couldn't take the weight pressing down on me anymore. I just had to know. When I pulled into the driveway, Rachel's car was already there. That wasn't unusual, but what caught my attention was the vehicle parked across the street. A silver sedan I'd seen before. Kyle's. My chest tightened. Every part of me wanted to believe it was a coincidence, but deep down I already knew. I unlocked the front door as quietly as I could. The house was still. Too still. I could hear faint voices coming from the living room. Rachel's laugh, soft and familiar, followed by another sound that made my blood run cold. A moan. Her moan. I crept forward, barely breathing. The closer I got, the more it felt like my body was shutting down. And then I saw them. Rachel and Kyle, right there on our couch, half naked, tangled together in a way that left no doubt. Her body, once only mine, moved against his with a kind of passion that made me feel sick. Clothes were scattered across the floor. My home, our home, felt suddenly unfamiliar. I froze. For a second it was like I couldn't move or breathe or even think. This wasn't some accidental kiss. This was deliberate. Intimate. This was betrayal in its purest form. And then I snapped. What the? I shouted, my voice loud and raw. Rachel bolted upright, scrambling for a blanket. Kyle flailed, reaching for his pants, his face drained of all color. Jack, Rachel started, but I didn't let her finish. Get out. I roared, pointing at the door. Both of you. Get the hell out of my house. Kyle tried to speak, stammering something about how it wasn't what it looked like, but I was already moving. I grabbed him by the shirt and shoved him hard toward the door. Out. Before I lose control, I shouted, my voice shaking with fury. He barely got his shoes on before rushing out the door, head down like a coward. Rachel just stood there, wrapped in that blanket, her eyes wet with tears. But I didn't care. Not anymore. Jack, please, I can explain. Explain? I snapped. You've been lying to me for months. Don't you dare stand there and pretend this is something I could understand. She looked like she wanted to say more, but the rage in my face must have told her it was over. She slowly gathered her clothes, still trying to talk, but I wasn't listening anymore. My blood was pounding too loud in my ears. As she reached the door, she turned back one last time. Her face crumpled, voice barely a whisper. I'm sorry. But sorry wasn't going to fix this. Not now. Not ever. She closed the door behind her, and in that moment, everything we'd built, every memory, every promise, it all felt like it had been burned to ash. My chest felt hollow. But at least now I had the truth. I didn't have to wonder anymore. I thought once the dust settled I'd feel peace, some form of closure maybe. But life doesn't always give you that clean break. A couple weeks passed. I was trying to put myself back together piece by piece. Part of that meant letting someone new into my life. Her name was Haley. That day, Haley came over to help me reorganize the house a bit, turn it back into a home instead of a battlefield. I had to head out for work, but she said she'd stay and keep busy until I returned. I left, thinking it'd be a quiet, uneventful afternoon. But nothing is ever that easy, is it? Midway through a work call, my phone started blowing up, text after text. I ignored them at first, trying to stay focused. But when I finally checked, my stomach dropped. They were all from Haley. "Jack, you need to come home. Now. Your ex-wife is here. She's crying. She's at the door. She won't stop begging me to let her in. Rachel, she was back." I fired off a quick text to Haley, "Don't let her in. I'm on my way." But the messages kept coming. "Jack, she's not leaving. She's out here on her knees crying. I don't know what to do." I could already picture it. Rachel, the woman who cheated on me with Kyle, now crumbling on our porch in front of someone who had absolutely nothing to do with her mess. It wasn't just the betrayal that got under my skin, it was the audacity. The fact that she was dragging Haley into this, forcing her to witness the aftermath of everything she'd done. I rushed through the rest of my shift, barely registering what anyone was saying, and jumped in my car as soon as I could. The whole drive home, my mind was racing. What was she trying to accomplish? Why now? And how was Haley holding up? When I pulled into the driveway, I saw them immediately. Rachel on the front steps, mascara streaking down her cheeks, while Haley stood in the doorway, arms crossed, looking overwhelmed. The image hit me like a punch to the chest. The woman I had once shared my life with, now a sobbing wreck, pleading for another chance. And Haley, part of my new beginning, caught right in the middle. As soon as I got out of the car, Rachel's eyes met mine. "Jack, please," she cried, her voice hoarse. "Please just give me a minute. I'm begging you. I messed up so bad. But I still love you, I never stopped." Haley stayed quiet, standing in the doorway waiting for me to take control. I could see the concern in her face, the quiet confusion. She hadn't signed up for this, and I hated that she was being dragged into it. I walked up the steps, feeling tension building in my chest. "Rachel," I said, my voice low but firm, "what are you doing here?" "I've been such an idiot," she sobbed. "I didn't know what I had until it was gone. I know I hurt you. I was lost, but it was a mistake. One huge mistake. I still love you, Jack. Please, please just give me a chance to fix this." I stood there, watching her fall apart in front of me, and instead of feeling pity or closure, I just felt tired. This woman had torn my life in two, and now she was trying to act like she could just glue it back together with a few tears and a desperate plea. Haley didn't say a word, but I knew she was ready to intervene if she had to. Her eyes met mine, and I could see she was trying to stay calm for my sake. "Rachel," I said quietly, "you need to leave. It's over. You ended it the moment you chose him." "No, Jack, please. You don't understand," she said, rising to her feet, trembling. "It meant nothing. I was confused and stupid and scared. But I know now you're the one I want. I'm not giving up on us." I shook my head, the anger building. "You didn't suddenly come to that realization. You got caught. That's what this is. You're not here because you regret it. You're here because the lie didn't hold up." Haley stepped forward gently. "Jack, maybe I should." Rachel cut in, turning toward her, tears still streaming. "Haley, I didn't mean for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt anyone. But Jack and we have history. Real history. He's my husband." I could see Haley's jaw tighten, but she didn't take the bait. She simply looked at me, waiting. "Megan," I said, because that's who she was now to me. Not Rachel, not my wife, not the woman I once loved. Just someone I used to know. "Go home. Whatever we were, it's gone. You broke it. And you can't fix it." She stared at me for a moment as if hoping I'd take it back. When I didn't, she slowly picked up her things, wiping her eyes with trembling hands. "Fine," she whispered. "But I'm not giving up on us. I'll be back." She walked away slowly, disappearing down the street, and I felt the weight of the past finally step off my chest. Haley and I stood there in silence. Everything in me felt like it was vibrating: exhaustion, relief, disbelief. "That was intense," Haley finally said, her voice careful. "Are you okay?" I nodded, though I wasn't really sure. "I will be," I said, watching the road where Rachel had vanished. "I just didn't expect that today." She stepped closer and gently placed her hand on my arm. "You don't owe her anything, Jack. You gave her every chance. This isn't on you." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt this deep wave of gratitude. Haley didn't run. She didn't panic. She didn't even flinch. She just stood by me. "You're right," I said softly. "It's done." She made sure of that. We walked inside together, the air still heavy but a little clearer now. The living room, once the place where everything fell apart, felt different. Still haunted maybe. But not as sharp. Not as raw. Haley sat down, curling her legs beneath her. "I'm sorry you had to go through that again," she said. "I didn't expect it to be like that, seeing her." "It's not your burden to carry," I said, sitting beside her. "But thank you. For sticking around." She smiled at me, warm and a little weary. "I knew you were going through something when we reconnected. I'm here because I care. Not because it's easy." That hit me deeper than I expected. After so much chaos, after all the deception, here was someone just here. No conditions. No lies. "Thanks," I said again. "For real." She nudged me lightly. "Hey, I didn't even have to fight her off. You handled it." We laughed, really laughed, and the tension finally broke. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt like I was taking a step forward. Not dragging the past behind me, not drowning in questions. Just moving, slowly, steadily, toward something new. I knew Rachel wasn't done, not by a long shot. She was never the type to just walk away quietly. But at that point it didn't matter anymore. Whatever fight she still had in her, it wasn't my responsibility to deal with. I had a life to rebuild without her. And Haley was becoming part of that life. Rachel could cry, beg, or show up every day for a year, but my answer wouldn't change. It was over. What surprised me, though, was the silence. After that last scene on my porch, I braced for impact. More calls, unexpected visits, long-winded texts full of guilt and nostalgia. But none of that came. Days passed. Then a full week. Still nothing. Maybe she'd finally realized I wasn't coming back. Or maybe she thought vanishing would somehow win me over. Either way, the quiet was unnerving, but also welcome. Haley and I settled into something that started to feel normal. Dinners together. Lazy weekends. Conversations about the future that didn't feel forced or fragile. For the first time in a long while, I was starting to breathe again, not just exist but actually live. But then, Friday came. I was just leaving work, already thinking about what Haley and I might do that night. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and when I saw the name on the screen, my heart sank. Rachel. She'd left a voicemail. I stared at it for a few seconds, debating whether to delete it without listening. But curiosity got the better of me. I slid into the driver's seat, shut the door, and hit play. Her voice was quiet, soft in a way that almost didn't sound like her. "Jack, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I need to say this. I made a mistake. A huge one. I can't undo what I did, but I need you to understand how sorry I am. I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted and I hurt you. But now I know. I know it's you. I'll be at the park tomorrow afternoon, if you're willing to talk. Just talk. Please, Jack. I love you." I let the message play again before deleting it. I wasn't surprised she tried again. But hearing her voice like that still got to me. How could it not? She was a part of my life for nearly a decade. There were pieces of her everywhere in my past. And while I didn't want her back, not even a little, some memories are hard to ignore. That night Haley came over. I told her about the voicemail. She listened without interrupting, calm as always, but I saw the flicker of unease behind her eyes. Not because she doubted me, but because Rachel was still hovering at the edges of our life, still reaching through the cracks. "What are you going to do?" Haley asked. "I don't know," I admitted. Part of me wants to ignore it, but the other part feels like I need to see her. Just to put a real end to it. Haley didn't jump to judge. She just nodded. "Closure," she said. "Just, be careful. She knows how to get in your head." I appreciated that about Haley. She didn't try to control how I handled my past. She just stood beside me while I dealt with it. The next day I drove to the park. I wasn't there to reopen anything. I just wanted to close the door for good. Rachel was already there, sitting on a bench beneath a cluster of old trees. She looked up when she saw me, her face lighting up with a kind of hope that twisted my stomach. "Jack," she said, standing. "I didn't think you'd come." "I'm not here to talk about getting back together," I said immediately. "I'm here to tell you to stop. Stop calling. Stop showing up. It's over." Her face fell, but she didn't give up. "I made a mistake. I know I hurt you. But I didn't know what I was doing. I was scared. I thought I needed something else. But it was you. It's always been you." I shook my head. "You don't get to rewrite this. You didn't make a mistake, Rachel. You made a choice. A conscious one. And now you're living with the result." She stepped closer. Please, just one more chance. I can make this right. I'll do whatever it takes. I backed away. No. You lost that chance. You don't get to come back and pretend this never happened. Her tears returned, but this time I didn't feel pity. I felt relief, because I finally knew I was free. Goodbye, Rachel, I said. She stood there, frozen, watching me walk away. She didn't follow. She didn't scream or cry out. She just stood still, like the reality of it was finally sinking in. And that was it. Or so I thought. A few days later, Haley and I were out having lunch at a small cafe near downtown. We were laughing about something, I can't even remember what, when Haley's eyes flicked toward the door. She went quiet. What is it? I asked. I turned and saw her. Rachel. She was standing outside, staring in at us, pale and shaken. I hadn't told her about Haley. And now, standing there watching us through the window, she knew. She'd finally seen it for herself. I had moved on. I stood up and walked outside to meet her. Megan, I said, because that's who she was now. Not my wife. Just a woman from another life. Why are you here? She didn't say anything at first. She looked from me to Haley and back again and finally whispered, You moved on. Yes, I said. I did. Tears formed in her eyes. I thought you'd wait, even just a little. I nodded slowly. We were done long before you realized it, Megan. I just didn't want to admit it. She looked down, clutching her purse like it was the only thing keeping her together. I don't know what to do anymore, she whispered. I didn't answer right away. What could I say? It wasn't my job to fix her. Take care of yourself, I finally said. Let me go. For both our sakes. She nodded, her tears falling freely now, and then she turned and walked away. No more promises. No more fights. Just silence. I went back inside. Haley reached for my hand as I sat down. Everything okay? She asked. Yeah, I said. It's finally over. And this time I believed it. Really believed it.